Welcome back to Kathy's Kitchen, where everything's a hot mess, but it turns out delicious. Today we are going to do a good old southern meal. In fact, it was first done, there's a lot of debate, but Lampasas, Texas claims it. So we're going to say that that's where it came from. We're going to be doing chicken fried chicken, and we're also going to be doing chicken fried steak. Chicken fried steak was actually the original recipe, and then over time, people that didn't eat beef added the chicken in. But we're going to do both. And we're going to do tossed salad, mashed potatoes, because you can't have chicken fried steak without mashed potatoes. And then we're also going to have gravy. And I'm going to do sauteed green beans. And you can do whatever vegetable you want. This is a fairly easy recipe, but it's going to take us a little while because there's several moving parts. So, we're going to let some people join us. We'll give them a few minutes to get themselves together. Go ahead and wash your potatoes if you're cooking along with me. I've already washed mine using my potato brush. I love the potato brush. It's really stiff and it cleans the dirt off nicely and quickly without wasting water. So, while we're waiting for it, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I started cooking. I could reach the counter. That's how it happened. My mother loved to do dishes, but didn't like to cook. And I, as a small child, was fascinated with cooking. The science of it and everything just really made me happy. So I started learning. And I remember the first recipe I made was an utter disaster on my own. It ended up in the trash can because a dog wouldn't even eat it. But as time went by, I improved, and I have gotten better as years have gone by. Thank goodness that the 10-year-old self didn't listen to that disaster and quit cooking. So come along with us on this journey today, and I think you'll enjoy it. You get to take your flusterations out with your meat pounder onto meat. You get to chop up some things. We get a whisk. We get to do all kinds of fun things. And you can learn to make your own white gravy and quit buying those packets that are questionable. So let's go ahead and get started. Right here, I have my potatoes that I mashed. And I like to be picky about things in certain orders. So it's important that we get stuff in a certain order and we cook in a certain order so everything comes out hot. So we're going to start with our potatoes because they take the longest to cook in this meal. I use red potatoes. I do not peel them because when you peel them, you take out the nutrition that you need. So I just kind of cut out any bad spots that are in them. I don't like the eyes very well, so I cut those out also. It's just a personal preference. So just kind of trim them up and then cut them into pieces about like that into your kettle. It really doesn't matter because we're going to be mashing them, but I do find that they cook better if you cut them evenly. That way you don't have some that are really, really done and some that are not done. So this is an important thing. Now, mashed potatoes have probably been around forever. I didn't realize, but at one time, they used to think potatoes were poisonous. But they're not, obviously. We eat tons of them. Being of Irish descent, Irish and German descent, my family loves potatoes. I'm not as big a potato eater as the rest of the family, but, Irish potatoes are really great. Now, there was a woman in 1747 that published her cookbook, and she published the first mashed potato cook recipe. And I found it interesting. My recipe pretty much follows hers. Pretty close. She used milk, I use heavy cream, but she used butter in hers and salt and pepper. Pretty much the same thing. I think a basic potato recipe is the way to go. I try to avoid throwing the kitchen sink at my food because I find that just doesn't make it as appealing.
Ann Fortier says, hey girl.
Who?
Ann Fortier.
Oh, hi Ann. Thanks for joining us. She is my soul sister, so it's nice to have her along for the ride. So potatoes have been around for a while, but they really, before they were more like cooked with like kale and things like that, when the Irish did. And so this is more of a American thing. Americans really are the ones that started doing this. And actually it was started in the UK and then came over to America. So, get our potatoes. When I do mashed potatoes, I count how many people are going to eat, and then I take that number of potatoes plus 3. So, that's how I decide on how much mashed potatoes. Now, leftover mashed potatoes are not a bad thing. They do not freeze well. Let me tell you, do not freeze them. They don't come out nicely once you freeze them. But they do warm up the next morning, fried crispy in butter like heaven. So that's a nice addition to your breakfast of eggs or whatever you want to eat with it. So, and yes, I know I probably waste some of the potatoes, but that's my mom telling me in the back of my head that I do that. And it's probably true, but you know what? I don't like yucky stuff in my potatoes, so I don't want to risk it. So, see how that black stuff, you don't want that in your potatoes. And potatoes this time of year, we're getting to the end of the last year's season. I am so ready for next season's potatoes to come out because they just aren't very good. So, got our potatoes cut up. And this is what it's going to look like in your kale. Cover them with water to just above the potato line. So I'm going to go and fill mine up and give you guys, I do fill it, rinse it, dump it, and put more water in. So go ahead and take care of that while I'm doing that. Okay, got it filled up with some water. I'm going to add some salt. I usually just add about a tablespoon or half a tablespoon of salt to it, not too much. But I don't like a lot of salt in my food. People can always salt their own. Put your lid on and put it on your stove top on medium. Okay, we're just going to let that cook along there. And we're going to move on to our chicken. Now, I'm going to make both because I use the same topping for both. So, we're going to make both. Get yourself a cutting board. Put on your gloves. Because you know how I like to wear gloves when I'm cutting raw meat. I don't want that stuff on my hands. I'm very against bacteria and grossness. So we're going to put these on, and yes, my hands are wet from playing with the potatoes. So, if any of you have any questions for me, feel free to ask. I'm going to tell you I don't eat meat often. I'll eat a small piece of the fried chicken, small, but I'm not a big fan of meat because I don't like the texture. I don't eat any beef or pork because I don't like the flavor either. So, you're going to say to yourself, how in the heck does this woman know how to cook meat? Well, I do cook vegetarian with meat substitutes, but I cook them exactly the same as you do meat. And so I do know the flavors of the recipe. And also, I just reduce the salt because you don't need to salt soy meats. So we're going to take a piece of plastic wrap. Remember, if you've been with me before, it was what we used to pound with. And I'm going to do my beef first. And I know that people think because cube steak has been cubed that it doesn't need to be tenderized. That's not true. You do need to tenderize it. So take it, cover it, give it a good little pound. Turn it over, do both sides. You'll find that this makes your chicken fried steak a lot tenderer when you do that. So we're going to put that back here, on here. And we're going to do both sides. I was supposed to put the plastic over it because I really hate it when it gets down into things because now I'm going to have to clean that out with a toothpick. Now, the chicken fried chicken and the chicken fried steak, if you allow it to cool and put it in the freezer in a Ziploc, you can pop it in the oven and just heat it up and then put gravy and stuff over it and have it again for another meal. It heats up nicely that way. So, if you want to make a bunch tonight, you can. And then you don't have to later in the week when you want another week down the road when you're really busy and you don't want to have to deal with cooking, pop it out of there and make it. I do that same thing when I make eggplant parm. And last night, Monday of this week, I'd had a bunch of stuff going on, and so I just popped it out and put it in the oven and made it with the sauce on it, and it was beautiful. Okay, so we're going to get ourselves another piece of plastic, because now we're going to do the chickie. Get ourselves a knife. And this is a chicken breast that I had frozen. I always freeze my chicken breasts like this so I can take them out. If I need more than one. We're going to trim off the fat. Don't want any fat left. If you have a dog, feel free to feed it to them. That is not your children or spouses. And then you're going to butterfly it. That means to cut it this way. So butterfly it in half. And then cut the pieces in half. And now we're going to pound these out with another piece of plastic. So we want to tenderize all of our meat that we're using for this recipe. Chicken was actually derived by a German and Australian immigrants in Lampasas, Texas. And what they did is they took the Wiener Schnitzel, which is a German pork or veal, and it's breaded and fried, and they took it and adapted it into what we know as chicken fried steak. And it was a hit in Texas. Let me tell you, those Texans love their chicken fried steak. This is a bite in Texas. Usually when you get it, one will be about the size of my cutting board, which is really a lot of meat. So you have to be very, very hungry to eat that much. So give that guy some good pounds. We want to also when you do this, it makes it so it cooks a little quicker. That's helpful. So we're gonna get it done. We're gonna get this done. There you go. So all of our meat is pounded out. I'm gonna put it on the cutting board for our next step. And this is what it looks like. I'm gonna get rid of this stuff. I'm gonna wash my hands. I'm going to keep my gloves on because when I do this breading process, I really dislike the breading on my hands. That's just a texture thing, so it's whatever you want to do. Okay, so I'll set that aside, and then we're going to get our bowls. I have these here, and they clip together, which makes it nice. Otherwise, I am a complete slob. I get stuff everywhere. So, heads up, guys. So, in the first one, we're going to put 4 eggs. I crack my eggs on the side, on the countertop like this, because if you crack them on the side of the table, some of you learned that from your mom or your grandmother, it pushes the eggshell into the egg, and you can possibly get bacteria in there, which can give you food poisoning. So, I suggest against it. Okay, so we have our eggs in there, and then to the eggs we're also going to add 1.5 cups of buttermilk. Buttermilk is used to tenderize, and it does a really nice job of tenderizing the meat. It has the ability to break down the tissue in the meat, and it also has I can't even pronounce it. It has this thing that attaches to the meat fibers that helps also to keep it from being real meaty flavored and gamey if you're using game. So I highly recommend buttermilk. So we're going to add our buttermilk. And then we're going to add some sriracha because It's Texas, guys. We need some. We're going to add 2 teaspoons of Sriracha, or any hot sauce that you have you can use that's like this. I just happen to keep Sriracha on hand for this, and I really like it in it. Okay, we're going to break our egg yolks with a fork. We need to whisk this up. I have this cute little whisk that I use. So kind of whisk it up. We need to get this all mixed together. Don't get crazy. We don't want it all over the place. That would be me. I have been informed by my daughter to be less messy when I'm cooking. So I'm trying to hide the hot mess side of me, which is throwing buttermilk all over the floor on this side. Okay, now, whoops. Shh, don't tell her.
Where did you get your Sriracha? We can no longer find it, Ann says.
You know, I bought it at Hannaford's, but I have seen it at Walmart and also, Shaw's. If not, you can always go, a lot of times I find I have to go online to Amazon and order things that I like to buy. Also, they're in the Asian section. Don't look in the condiment section. Look in the Asian section, and that's usually where you can find it. They put it in kind of a weird spot because it's more common in Asian dishes up here in New England, to clarify for people that aren't in the area. Okay, now we're going to add 2 cups of flour. Am I going too fast, guys? I have a tendency to cook fast. So we're going to put 2 cups in here. And in this small kitchen, sometimes when people are helping me, oh, it's a hot mess. Okay, so we've got our 2 cups of flour. And to our 2 cups of flour, we're going to add some seasoning salt. We're going to add 2 teaspoons of seasoning salt. One day I had to measure all this stuff when I made it, and so now I have to remember, because normally when I'm just cooking randomly for myself, I'm just pouring until it looks right. But, so I use Lowry's. You can use any type of seasoning salt, but I was raised that this is the all-purpose seasoning. So use any type of seasoning salt. You're going to want, and for my pepper, you're going to want 1/2 teaspoon. So I live on the wild side. I just use my half of my 1 teaspoon. Because pepper, you can't get too much. Well, I guess you can, but that's a matter of opinion.
Ann says that you're doing perfect for timing and that you have Mike's attention to the non-cook.
Oh, good. Hey, Mike, glad you joined us. Speaking of non-cooks, next week we are going to be doing hamburgers. I'm going to be doing the spicy habanero hamburger plus the vegetarian hamburger, and my adorable husband is going to be grilling the beef ones for me. Okay, so we're going to put 1/4 teaspoon of paprika. You can use regular or smoked, either one. And another 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne. Yes, I know, more heat. I mean, come on, guys. You want some flavor, right? By the way, my favorite all-time idol cook is Bobby Flay. I think he is adorably good at cooking, and he uses lots of spices, so he's my hero. Okay, so we're going to take a fork and mix this up. Now, this is our breading, so you want to make sure it's mixed in well, because nothing's worse than having bland stuff. We're going to throw our chicken into the buttermilk so it can start getting buttermilk on it. Just don't get it so full that it overruns. That would be a Kathy trick. Okay, there we go. Now, what you need to have is a...
Mike says he's down for next week.
Looking forward to it, Mike. A cookie sheet and a cooling rack. Now, when you're making chicken fried chicken and chicken fried steak, you have to bread it and allow it to sit for 15 minutes. That's how you keep the crust on it, and you don't end up with it all in your thing. And I just inhaled pepper just a minute. Okay, so I'm going to take it out of here, put it into my flour, let it sit, get another piece. I'm going to shake off flour, dip back into my milk and egg, back into my flour. So it's causing a layering effect. And then I'm going to take it and gently lay it on my pan. And try not to take your crust off. And my gloves are doing that, so I guess I am going to be touching the nastiness. Okay, so be prepared. Your hands will be thick with flour by the end of this episode, of this lovely exercise. Try to make sure you drain off as much egg as you can, because you really don't want all that building up in your flour. Take it over, lay it down. Let's do the other 2 pieces of chicken. So this makes it easier. I've done a bunch of different ways. I played with this recipe for probably 15, 20 years. And this is the recipe I landed on as my favorite. And this makes the best chicken fried steak. It has the nicest crunch on it. And everybody loves it. And chicken fried chicken, because you can see we make them both. So it just depends on what I can get on sale, usually. But lately I've been doing both. I don't know what happened there. I just kind of started doing it. Okay, see what I mean? This is disgusting. Okay, let's put our beef in. Anybody have questions for me? I'd be happy to answer anyone's questions about stuff. Now, when we're cooking, we do want our chicken completely done. We do not want we're going to put it in the oven to keep it warm while we finish off the rest of the meal once we start cooking it. If I'm not completely at the end of the meal, that's what I do to keep it hot. So I usually do the beef medium so that it's not overly cooked when it's staying warm. Because meat continues to cook after you remove it from the heat, people. So be careful. That's usually why you're like, but the temperature thermometer said it was perfect. I don't understand why it's overdone. It's overdone because you took it out, rested it for 10 minutes, and it continued to cook for that 10 minutes. So that's why when you're cooking pasta or cooking something, it says, please rinse with cold water, or when you're blanching, you put it in cold water. That's to stop the cooking. Well, the same thing goes for meat, so just remember that. And I am making a horrible mess, but that's okay. I have to clean it up, so I don't have a dishwasher that's other than myself. I have a dishwasher, but I'm the one that washes and cleans the kitchen. Okay, so there we go. That's what it looks like, and it's going to sit there for a few minutes. This is what I look like. So everybody take a moment, finish your breading, clean your area, disinfect it, and then we'll start on the next step. If you have questions, feel free to type them in. My lovely daughter and assistant will let me know, and I'll answer them.
And says that her husband calls her the hurricane cook, so you're doing wonderful.
It's okay, Ann. I'm a hot mess. You're a hurricane. That's why we're soul sisters, girl. Okay. Let me get this mess cleaned up. Thank goodness I have a huge old-fashioned soap-stone sink, because that is where I get to throw all my dirty mess. It doesn't get everywhere. Okay. I'm cleaning off everything because the bacteria on chicken is will contaminate everything else that it touches. You cannot do that. Plus, I have a butcher block here and I don't want it to soak in. Okay. We're going to prep our green beans while this guy is just hanging out here, getting all those flavors in and soaking in. Because if you just pop it in the fryer right away, it's a hot mess. It's even worse than me. So, I bought my green beans like this because I'm being lazy and I don't want to have to cook for 5 million hours. So we're going to pour them in here. I buy them already washed and ready to go. But it's a lie. It's a lie, guys. Look. You always need to check it. Kitchen shears, easiest way to do beans. So you can use it to take little ends off that they left because their machines are delinquent.
Michelle Fortier says Andy and I are going to do a smoke off this summer.
Yes, we will have a smoke off this summer with my husband. He's the king of smoking. I do his brining and stuff in the sides. And so we will be doing a smoker thing this summer, probably at our house with our dear friends, my soul sister and her husband. So it'll be fun to have cooks on the scene. Okay, now you're going to add to this. I have everything all messed up. Okay, we're going to add some garlic. And I usually add 3 or 4 cloves of garlic. So get yourself some garlic. And thanks to my lovely daughter who suggested the trash can over next to me, I have less of a mess when I'm cooking. Okay, so we got 4 cloves of garlic. And I'm going to cut off, there's a bad spot on here. But the beauty of having a garlic press, I'm going to show you. Put your garlic in. You do not have to peel it with this particular garlic mincer. And there you go. And then you open it and just take the shell and put it in the trash. It is so freaking easy. I suggest you look for one like this at the store. You can put less garlic if you don't like garlic, but garlic's really good for you. It's good for your blood pressure. And I don't know if I've said this in the past, but it's also an aphrodisiac. So that's why the Italians think they're the lovers of the world, because they use a lot of garlic. So it also helps your blood pressure, your heart. It's just a really good, if it's fresh, if it doesn't come out of a jar. Please don't use the jar ones. They got preservatives in it. I want all you guys to live a long time. So, we got that in there. What else are we going to add? We are going to add, where'd my butter go? Hello? I have a whole stick of butter here. What did I do? Oh, here it is. Okay, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of butter. I like to add butter in because it helps it crisp up nicely. But butter by itself will burn. So, we're going to add some olive oil in there. A couple tablespoons. You don't want it to be too greasy. And if you want these to be fancy, you can add pine nuts or almond slivers and a splash of lemon juice later. Okay, now we're going to add some salt. You can use seasoning salt or regular salt. Just kind of sprinkle some on there, according to how much vegetable you do have. And of course pepper, because our family loves pepper. Okay, you're going to place this on the stove at about a medium low, because it's going to cook. You want it to cook. Green beans take a while. If you're doing asparagus, they're really quick. If you're doing broccoli, about the same as green beans. So we've got two things going. While you're at the stove, take the time to turn your oven on to 275. That is what we're going to need to put our chicken in at. And our steak. Keep it warm. Hopefully Mike's not getting too hungry watching this. Okay. Now, where was I at? Oh, I'm standing here. Okay, so now we are at the point where our chicken is still not ready to go in. So we're going to go ahead and make our salad, because it's okay to make your salad when you're waiting for your chicken to get done. You don't want to make your gravy too soon because it will get lumpy on you, so don't make it early. So I like to get my salad out of the way so I don't have to think about it, and I'm not going, oh my goodness, I forgot to make that stupid salad. But I love salad, so my favorite thing to do is to get red and green leaf lettuce, and if you buy it like this, it keeps it really nice and fresh. But you don't want that in your salad. It's way too big. Nobody can get that on their plate and in their mouth without slapping themselves across the face and having salad dressing everywhere. So, kind of ball it up, not too much, and just do this. You can tear it apart. The reason you don't want to cut with a knife is if you're going to keep it, it will turn, the metal reacts with the cells of the lettuce and it breaks them, causing it to turn brown. So you can tear it apart. When you tear it, it goes between the cells and it doesn't turn brown. That is why you don't want to use a metal knife. But I'm not planning to keep it, so it doesn't matter. Okay. Huh?
Michelle says you're hilarious, and she also says, so put another chicken on there, and we'll see you in half an hour. Or an hour and a half.
Okay. Now we're going to cut up some this is baby cucumbers. So you can put whatever you want on your salad. My husband, he will not eat anything I put on a salad except for lettuce. So I just kind of do it like on 3/4 of the salad and leave a corner for him to dig to mine under. Because I live in a household of people that are picky. Okay, sounds like my green beans are too high. Stir your green beans, you don't want it to burn. Okay, then I have some mini peppers, which have a nice sweet flavor. So we're going to cut them up into nice little rings. Give us some color. And we'll do an orange one. My oldest daughter really loves these on her salad. Pay attention. Don't be looking at the screen if you're cutting, please. Remember, the reason for most accidents in a kitchen is a dull knife, so make sure your knife is well and not paying attention to what you're doing. That's the second reason. So, that's enough pepper. And then I'm going to add some cherry tomatoes, because I have some on hand from when we made pizza the other night. We may make pizza from scratch one of these days. We'll see. Because my family loves pizza. And we make it on a weeknight. We used to only make it on a weekend, but now that I've gotten proficient at it. So there's our little tossed salad. It's just a little side thing to kind of cut through the grease and the heaviness of this meal, because it can get kind of heavy. So we're going to put it back here, out of the way, so I don't throw anything in it, because that would be horrible. Okay, let's see. Our potatoes should be boiling. Mine are. Nicely. Okay, I guess it's time to move on to cooking our chicken fried chicken and chicken fried steak. Clean our counter off. Okay, I use an electric skillet for this because I like the way it turns out better. You can use anything you want, but my favorite is an electric skillet. You can do it on the stove. I find that I can regulate the heat better. So you're going to turn it to about, hold on. Let me get my power cord over here. Since I live in an 1858 house, you have to use power strips because plug-ins are a commodity.
That does not look secure, Mom. You take that so it won't fall off and dump everything on you.
Hold on.
Michelle says that she loves the colorful salad.
Oh, good. Me too. It's good for you. Okay, so we're going to turn it up to about 350. We're going to add our oil. This pot needs to be hot, but not screaming hot, okay? So you're going to add your oil. Need your oil to be at least a 1/4 inch deep. It's a lot of oil. You're going to throw a lot away. So get it in there. I cannot turn it and show it to you. That would be ridiculous. Despite going over my list multiple times, I forgot a flipper. So, now you're going to get yourself another cookie sheet and another cooling rack because you don't want to put your cooked meat onto your other rack. You want it to go on here when you put it in the oven because, hold on.
What kind of oil?
I use
She's sneezing.
vegetable. I use vegetable oil. You can use peanut oil or vegetable oil. Traditionally it used to be made with lard. So we're gonna let it. I'm gonna feel it here. What was I gonna tell you? I'm sure it was something really important. Obviously not. Okay. So I like to cook my chicken first because it takes the longest. I don't want my beef to be overcooked. It's highly important that you cook in a certain order.
Can you use canola oil?
You can use canola oil. You can use avocado oil. You can use any kind of oil you want. Olive oil does not work real well. I will recommend against it.
It doesn't work well.
Huh?
So you can use it, it just doesn't work well?
It just doesn't crisp it up like it should. So you can kind of see how they look now. See how that kind of setting up there? So we're going to get ourselves we're going to take one off. Gently take it off and put it in the oil. Do not play with it. Do not move it around. It needs to just cook, okay? Patience is a virtue. So put your chicken into your skillet. Do not overcrowd. You do not want it to steam it. You want it to fry it. And then, yes, you have gross fingers again. Gross. Don't touch your face. Don't touch anything. Just wipe it off because while you're cooking this, you're going to have germs on you. So maybe about 375 is better. You can tell I don't pay attention to what I usually cook it at. I usually just throw it in and then play with it. Okay, so we got this cooking. Our potatoes, I'm going to go over and check and see how they're doing. I use a fork. No, they're so hard. If your fork doesn't go in easily, your potatoes are not ready to make mashed potatoes. If your potatoes are not all the way down when you try to make mashed potatoes, they will turn out like glue, lumpy glue. Ugh. Looks like when you try to make plaster from scratch, instead of just buying a bucket of it already mixed up. That's what it looks like. So you don't want to do that. So, okay, it's starting to cook now. Get crispy. I have enough room in here to put my other one. I actually have an electric skillet that would hold all of my steaks, but I didn't want to scare you guys. Plus, it would take up my whole island. Okay. So we got you're checking your green beans every so often, stirring them because we don't want them to burn. We got our potatoes going, and we have our chicken cooking. And then after this, we're going to make our gravy, and then lastly, we will make our mashed potatoes. And this meal, when I'm not teaching somebody, I can usually cook it in 45 minutes. So, I don't know if you can see. Can they see in the skillet?
Not a ton. They can kind of just see a little the stuff that's closest to you. They can see.
Okay, so you can kind of see, you can see how it's cooking. We want it to get nice and crisp before we turn it. You're not going to turn this and then turn it back and turn it. You do that, it will take your breading off of your meat. Do not get impatient, Ann. I'm talking to you, girl. This will also keep your meat from getting tough. You don't want to do that, okay? Now, because we pounded it out, once you crisp up each side, your chicken will be completely done because it's pretty thin. We butterflied the breast, then we pounded it, so you have thinned it out a lot. So it cooks it very nicely. So I check after a little bit. Nope, still not done. Still not crispy. Let's see, what else should I tell you about while we're sitting here looking at space? I was wanting anyone that wants to suggest a menu item that they would like to see cooked, please let me know. I love cooking recipes. I've never cooked before, so you're welcome to email me a recipe and I will look at it. I'm not promising I won't change it because the joke in the house is I can never make a recipe without making changes to it. I really try, but then I can't. So, but you can send me a recipe, and I'll be happy to look at it and see if we can add it onto our weekly cook session. My family likes being guinea pigs. Well, not really, but they do. They're good sports. This last week, I have this certain vegetarian meat I really, really like, but I have to drive an hour to get it. It's expensive, and my kids like it, and so my husband found a recipe that was very similar to it. So I did make some alterations to the recipe, but I did make it, and it turned out, just delicious. Perfect. And I gave some to my aunt and uncle, and they were like, this is wonderful. Okay, we're going to check again. Okay, it's turning golden, so we're going to take it. I always put my finger right here so it doesn't splat down, and then gently let it down into the oil. Your breading should be golden brown.
Ann says that she would like to see your noodle salad that you posted.
Which one?
The Vietnamese one, I think.
Oh, okay. We can do that sometime. Yeah, we can, I'm kind of, I do a lot of foods that aren't American, but since I'm not since I'm German and Irish, I've been kind of staying away from the other ones, but we will get into some of those. Spring is coming. I like to do bowls. We'll do bulgogi bowl. Is it bulgogi?
Bulgogi.
Bulgogi. I am so terrible with names. So we'll do that this summer, and we'll do a bunch of different bowls. So that's when we'll get into the more of the, because Asian food has a lot of fresh vegetables, so I want to be able to get some fresh stuff at the farm stand. Okay, our chicken is cooking along. Mine's nice and brown. Yours should look like this on one side. We're getting the other side done. If you're cooking along with me. Or if you're just watching so you can figure out if you want to make this sometime for your family. This makes a great family meal. If you have family over on a weekend and you want to make it, it's a great meal to make. You can make most of the stuff ahead of time before anybody shows up. So that you aren't cooking and your kitchen's not a total hot mess. Okay, mine is browned on the other side, so I'm going to take it out. Put it right here. So we put it on here so all the oil can drain off of it because you really don't want it greasy. So there's our chicken. Now we're going to move on to our beef. Put it in. Look how beautiful that is. I'm going to pop this in the oven while we're doing the beef so that the chicken won't get cold. Yes, it's a pet peeve of mine. I hate to... The family laughs at me because if it's supposed to be hot, I want my food hot. If it's supposed to be cold, I want it cold. So let's get rid of this out of here. Gross looking. Clean up. Okay. Now we got our beef going. I tell you, I didn't plan this meal very well. I'm standing around doing nothing. Anybody have questions for me? I learned to make white gravy, which is what we're going to make. White gravy actually came from sawmill gravy, which was originally done for people that worked in the sawmill when they had a person that would cook for them because of the people worked around the shift, around the night. And so they would make the bacon and stuff, and then the powder from the flour from the biscuit would go in, and so they made gravy and they put sausage in it. And that's what they fed them. So that's where originally white gravy came from. And now you have sawmill gravy, which has sausage in it, and then you have white gravy that doesn't. So we're going to make some. Okay, when you start seeing, don't get grossed out, people, but when you see the blood start to come up through the crust, through your dough, your breading, it's time to turn your beef over. Because remember, we don't want to overcook it. Nobody wants to eat shoe leather. I guess. I don't eat beef. I'm assuming you don't want to eat shoe leather. I have never been tempted to chew on shoe leather, so I'm sure no one else has. So this is going to take just a couple more minutes and we'll be done. Then we're going to be moving the camera. So you're going to have a short break, kind of clean up your area, and then we're going to start the gravy. But it's going to take a hot minute for Izetta to change that over. In fact, Izetta, why don't you go ahead and do that? We're going to put it on mute, and you guys can continue when you're, let me see. In just a couple more minutes, as soon as the other side is brown on your steak, take your steaks out and put them in the oven. And we'll be right back with the gravy. Okay, guys, we're ready. I just took my chicken fried steak off, and I'm putting that and my stuff in the oven. Woo! And we're gonna move to the gravy. Now, gravy's pretty easy. We're gonna take, I use 1/4 of a cup of butter. You can use 1/3 of a cup, whatever, however much you want to make. Turn your burner on medium-low, not too high, and put your butter in there. Making gravy is about being patient, extremely patient. So we need our butter to melt first before we do anything. While you're over here, feel free to check why it's melting.
Oh, Ann says you're doing amazing, and Rupert said, or not Rupert, Michelle says, is Rupert waiting patiently for dinner?
Yes, Ripper is waiting. He always gets scraps of meat and he loves it. So our green beans are cooking along nicely. They're starting to get some little browning on them. That's fine. My kids like a little brown on them. You can also add sliced mushrooms into your green beans. You can add in onions.
I have it set up for both.
Oh, onions and everything. Oh, my daughter's a little bit too technical for me. Okay, so I'm going to clean this off because we're going to be doing our mashed potatoes over here, but we're still melting. So I'm going to get my stuff ready. And we're going to talk a little bit about mashed potatoes because you won't be able to hear me when I'm doing it. Now, mashed potatoes used to be a guy in, let me think. Wow, I don't know what I'm saying. Oh, 1887, a guy developed the ricer. This is an antique ricer. I really love it. And he developed it because he noticed that people were having trouble getting their potatoes creamy without being gluey. Because you know how when you overbeat your potatoes, they get starchy or lumpy. So he developed the ricer. And this is an antique one that I do use to this day when I make potato pancakes. I make lackies. Potatoes. I'm terrible with names. Okay. So, white gravy was actually originally developed by a guy, two guys, and it was made from bechamel. I don't know if I'm saying that right. No, bechamel. And they left out the shallots and the nutmeg, and they added black pepper, and that's how white gravy is made today. So we got our butter. We're going to get it melted in here good. However much butter you put in, is how much flour you're going to add. It is highly important that you cook this flour for at least one minute. You can do it up to 2. But if you don't, your flour is going to taste like paste, and it'll take you back to your childhood, and you won't want to eat it. So don't do that. So we add our flour in. Take your whisk and whisk it around in there. Get it all mixed in with the butter. Hold on, I gotta use a hot pad because I have a gas stove and these handles get really hot. And I'm trying to remember not to burn myself. So you want to make sure it's really good mixed in, no lumps. And then you just want to let it sit there and kind of cook a little bit. And you're going to see the flour kind of bubble up, and then you'll know that it's ready to add your milk. Now I'm going to use lactose-free milk because my daughters are lactose intolerant. You can use any kind of milk you want, half and half, heavy cream, regular milk, 2%. It's your party. I'm going to suggest against coconut and almond and oat milk because they're very sweet, and you don't want your gravy sweet. So see how it's bubbling up in there? We're going to let that do that for just a minute here. You can use this will take 3 to 4 cups of milk. I never put the whole amount in. I just kind of pour some in and start whisking. And then I don't pour it all in at once because I want to whisk all my flour in really good. If you do not whisk it in really good, guess what? You're going to have lumps. Nobody likes lumpy gravy. Let me say that again. Nobody likes lumpy gravy. And here's the key to gravy. Making it creamy and smooth. You must whisk it frequently once you start it. Hence the reason you do it at the end of the meal, so you don't forget about it. And you come back and it's a gelled mess on the bottom with milk on top, and you no longer have gravy. Okay, we're going to check our potatoes again. Mine are done. So I'm going to take them off. You guys should be close to done, and you're going to want to drain them completely. All water out. So I drain mine like this, If you're not able to drain yours like this in the sink, use a draining sieve.
Colander.
A colander. Please do not burn yourself. Okay, and we're going to put that over here. And we can finish these off and then sit them on the back of our stove, and they'll stay hot because the oven's on. Give your gravy a whisk. I turned my green beans off instead of my potatoes. So give your gravy some whisk there. I'll have to take that out so it doesn't get hot. Now, we can get rid of this. Get yourself a stick of butter. I just take it and break it in half. Throw half of it in. You can also add in here garlic or anything else you want, cheese, anything you like, but tonight we're making basic. Add some all-purpose seasoning, not too much. About a half teaspoon. Some pepper. And some heavy cream, about a cup. Then you're going to take your mixer and you're going to mix them up. Do not over mix. Only mix until smooth and no lumps remain. This is a pretty quick process, so you will know that if you're getting it too much. If it looks too dry, add a little more milk. That'll keep it from getting gluey. And there, they're done. Then I take my other piece of butter and I throw it down in the middle. And this is what they look like. So we're going to throw this lid on, put it on the back of the stove to stay warm. Okay, let's whisk our gravy some more. We don't want it to get lumpy. It's getting there. If we hadn't come back now, it would have been in trouble. Yours should be starting to thicken up. Whisk in circles. Add some more milk because it's getting really thick. See what I mean about being a hot mess? Don't thin it too much because then it'll be watery. You don't want it watery. White gravy does not keep well, so don't try to keep it in the fridge. Only make enough for what you need. Stir your green beans again. I'll show you what they should be looking like. Whisk your gravy. Now we're going to sprinkle in some, this is to taste. I use, again, all-purpose seasoning and black pepper.
It says you're her favorite hot mess.
Thank you, Anne. I am. Okay, so our gravy is done. Our green beans are done, and our mashed potatoes are done. So all you need, guys, is a fork and a knife. And you can serve yourself a plate of food. So,
Don't plate.
yeah, I guess. Well, I'm not going to plate because I don't know how much food. I normally would plate, but this is a large meal, so I'm going to leave it for everybody to plate themselves. But what you would do is you would have, I'll post a picture later, but you're going to have your meat, your mashed potatoes, your green beans, your salad on the side, and gravy over your mashed potatoes and your chicken fried steak or chicken fried chicken.
We got a couple questions. First, green beans look good, this is Michelle, and then Anna's asking, what is all-purpose seasoning? Lowry's?
Lowry's or you can get anything that's like Lowry's is an all-purpose seasoning. Basically, it's just a combination of like paprika, turmeric, onion, garlic and stuff. It's just just an all-purpose seasoning. Some of them just say all-purpose seasoning, but they're going to say seasoning salt on them. This is just the Lowry's brand. I prefer it, but there's a bunch out there. You can use any of them. So, Everybody, phone up with T. I'll see you next week for hamburgers and french fries. We're going to learn to make french fries from scratch, and they're not going to be limp, and you're going to love it. See you next week.